have now our next speaker, Laxmi Devi. Laxmi is a lecturer in law at Multimedia University, Malaysia. Laxmi graduated with first-class honors from the University of Liverpool, where she obtained her LLM. Laxmi has also worked as a research assistant for medical journals in the UK and Malaysia. She has authored and co-authored several papers and contributed to a few book chapters. Laxmi will be addressing the topic of the driving force of technological enhanced interdisciplinary legal programs. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Laxmi Devi as taking the stage, please.
Hi, I'll just share my screen. I think that's easier to see. Yes, okay. I'll try and make this as fast as possible. Hi everyone, it's very nice to meet all of you. All of your presentations have been very interesting. I kind of feel a little bit in fear, but it's kind of interesting as well. Just because economic crime is not my favorite area. I do dabble in it because I teach consumer law at Multimedia University. So Multimedia University being a university that obviously started with engineering courses and computer science courses. And then recently in the last 10 years, we've separated as a faculty of law. So we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. And I am more interested in the legal educational realm. So I think from all of y'all and the colleagues that have presented so far, it's always from the industry angle. But I also think that sometimes, and me being a novice within this area myself, is that we don't give enough exposure when you are in law school itself to what you may face when you go outside representing different clients for varying reasons. And one of them could be because of economic crimes as well. And of course, economic crimes today, as the title suggests, it is quite advanced. It's moving at a very quick and fast pace. It's pretty much becoming undetectable just because crime is to do with technology, and technology is moving at a rapid speed. So I know I am from this generation and I've been brought up with technology, but even then we're not really exposed to, for example, like you said, blockchain, machine learning, AI. It's a very new area. We do have a lab in MMU back here in Malaysia, and we do experiment using metaverse within law school. So just to give you an idea, but basically, even before COVID and after COVID as well, we do use technology now more often within legal programs, especially because legal programs are known as being very archaic, being very, to the pen and paper and so forth. But of course, we've come very far. We have open book exams that are carried out online, etc. The pandemic has propelled us very far. But I think in the realm of economic crimes, and when we're talking about commercial awareness and commercial settings, there is much space to actually be explored. And one of the things when we talk about this is that we can actually use metaverse. So metaverse is one of the technologies that can be used, but just any technological application, Internet of Things and so forth, to teach students about economic crimes and how they actually take place. So running simulations and so forth. And when we do talk about metaverse itself, just to give an idea. Of course, we're looking at it from augmented reality, virtual reality, live logging, mirror worlds, and we're talking about simulations where we have AI being projected within the simulations where you may have, for example, non-player characters, etc. And when we're talking about all these different interfaces, we never think about how these particular applications may be useful within law school itself to teach students about economic crime, how they take place, what are the red flags that we have to look for. And of course, I think when I discussed it with a colleague at a conference as well, teaching people within the industry as well, what they actually have to look for. So I believe that economic crime is a good way. So just for you to have an idea of what metaverse is. But economic crime in this era is actually a very good driving force to propel us to think about how we want legal programs to be curated from now on. Legal graduates are always known as people who are very concrete, solidified in using very old school methods, which may work at one point in time, but as time goes on and as this entire conference is an evidence of, is that it's not enough to actually help the graduate once they step into the legal field and the industry, especially if they're going to go within the commercial realm and the commercial setting and the commercial side of litigation as well. So understanding from start to finish what actually took place, what the alleged criminal ended up doing when it came to, for example, evasion tactics, or when it came to defrauding or stealing and so forth. So although we have the essence and sort of like the ingredients on the legal side, we don't really have a proper grasp and understanding of the technological side of it. And that can actually be some sort of a downfall as well when it comes to preparing your submissions, when it comes to understanding, because although we say lawyers are advocates and we do prepare for cases, we do shift around our hats a lot. So at one point in time, we could be the detective of the case. We could also be somebody who's, investigating to some extent what actually took place. We're also, in our line of work when we're coming up with submissions and presenting the case towards the court, basically coming up with the chronological order of events, and that it can only happen when you actually understand what is happening when a certain crime has actually taken place. So what we did in my university is basically to try and explore using metaverse applications to teach clinical legal education. And the idea behind this paper that I'm about to write about ECAT being a driving force is that we should sort of get ahead before everyone else, because when we talk about legal programs, we always think about it from the angle of the law rather than looking at how it can be useful interdisciplinary wise. So of course, we've come very far in terms of today we have law and accounting, law and psychology, etc. But we've never really had a very good marriage when it comes to law and technology. And I think that is the way forward. So this is actually a sort of mushroom from my earlier papers that talk about using metaverse in many ways in legal education. And I think one of the things that we don't talk about is interdisciplinary programs. So whenever we think of law school, we think of just stoic law schools being just one pillar that's being discussed. And then we also have, of course, the academics on the losing end in terms of trying to explain what happens as well. Recently, I've started picking up books on, what machine learning is, what AI is, how it's actually helpful or not helpful. ChatGPT is super new as well. But all of these different things, if you actually view social media, so social media is a form of live logging like metaverse. If you actually go and view these different applications, there are many students, law students, who take the time to actually teach how you can make use of ChatGPT in your law school as well. So this is a very good example of why I say that we should have these forums and discussions about how we can move forward. And the only way to do that is by speaking from people from that area itself. So I think Multimedia University, like the university where I come from, is quite a good platform in that sense, because we do have computer science programs, and there could be that possibility and that marriage that could happen. And of course, I always believe in prevention before cure. So trying to prevent the issue may be a little bit more difficult just because it's to do with the industry, but preventing meaning to say that before we produce legal graduates that essentially could become redundant skills wise just because they're technologically challenged, we should get ahead and start building programs that actually address this. And we don't have to necessarily have it as a double degree with computer science and or technology or metaverse and so forth with law, but just having those modules that basically assess this. So using simulations, using AI to teach about what the sort of crimes that can actually take place and how is it that technology is aiding these crimes and making it easier to go undetected and basically carrying it out and so forth. So my idea basically, and of course I'm open for many comments and discussions just to see where you think we should take this. But my idea is basically understanding that the demand that we have today can only be met if we start our background work now. And I think a lot of that is because it lacks research. There is to say it's a very dangerous or risky area as well, because we don't have enough research to see the measurable outcomes on what it means to have technology within teaching pedagogies, and to see what the impact is on the individual student as well as the legal graduate when they go on into the legal field. Coming to that, we also have to have this discussion and this bridge between the legal profession and legal academics or institutions as well, educational institutions, just because there's always this gap whereby we don't understand, or we as university and educational institutions, we assume that this is what the industry requires as far as skill sets are concerned from the graduate. And based on these assumptions, we build more and more unique programs. And we understand with massification, with so many changes to the way in which legal advice and conference and so forth is also delivered within the legal field, there is a strong competition among law schools to create unique programs to attract more students. So why is it that we don't think of it from the angle of the student as well? So if we keep having outcome-based education at the center, whereby the student is at the forefront, the view becomes a little bit more clear in terms of trying to build these programs as far as usefulness, having transferable skills for the graduate when they actually come out. And one of those things is that 3/4 of lawyers who end up, coming out of law school will be in the commercial sector. And one part of the commercial sector involves, litigating with economic crime. And of course, in this era, it's to do with the digitization of these economic crimes. So basically, I have this idea whereby we have more discussions, more forums, and come up with sort of a soft program to see, maybe starting with a module before curating an entire legal program itself, but interdisciplinary programs whereby future lawyers are actually given the chance to learn these different ideas about web designing, machine learning, AI, etc., so that they understand the mechanics that go behind it. Now, they don't necessarily have to learn programming from scratch, but just to have a basic idea of what exactly is happening, rather than just seeing numbers, digits, values on a screen, they will actually understand why is it that it's significant and works this way, or why is it the chain works this way. But yeah, that's basically the idea behind the paper. So I believe we should embrace technology in legal education rather than fearing it. We should get ahead. We should start investing some monies and effort into understanding and I think it also starts with accepting the fact that technology is here to stay. It's not going away, and it can be used for good or bad, because the technology is not bad. It's human greed that ends up being human greed that basically makes use of it and takes advantage of it as well. But I also say proceed with caution. So there's no how-to manual on how we're going to carry out these interdisciplinary programs, how we're going to build these curriculums that we talk about. But we definitely have to think about developing a sustainable implementation curriculum or teaching action plan, whereby we ask these various questions about our diverse learners, what we want as outcome, what we want as skills to be attained, and then build a program around it, just so that it turns out more useful. But thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I really hope I didn't exceed time, but I welcome so many questions, comments, just because it's very useful to hear what other people and what you have from your end and your universities as well, as far as interdisciplinary programs are concerned. So thank you so much for listening.
Your topic is really challenging, because I think that we are all here to ask to ourselves the sense of our work as academics in this moment. And so we need to reframe at this moment courses, programs, learning outcomes, pedagogies, learning materials, and assessment. Probably we have started this from the pandemic, when we were all there to understand how to move toward progress. Thank you for your contribution to this session.